You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Who put those orange cones there?
Greg Hectus.
I don't know how to follow that up.
And Tony Groves.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hey. On the show this week, we'll be unpacking all the new content from the Season 4 build, including new tracks, new cars, and all the other updates, including the addition of adding AI cars to hosted races. We'll add in some hardware to the mix and get some clues as to what's coming up in next year's NASCAR NIS schedule.
We also love to remind you that you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products that we're discussing. Go visit iRacersLounge.com and select show notes. We do hope to see you there.
Grid Finder 2.0 is bigger and better than ever with more ways to narrow your search for your next sim racing league. Featuring over 1,000 leagues from over 25 racing sims across every platform, your place on the grid is just a couple clicks away. Visit www.grid-finder.com to find a league or to upload your own. Grid Finder, the home of online sim racing leagues.
So we have 5 new cars, 11 new tracks, hosted sessions joining iRacing AI, and for the 2021 season, many other things.
Yeah, our stories this week, we kind of left in chronological order because a lot of information has come out. And this was one of the first things after the show last week that came out, just to a summary article, as you would call it. But I think the next one, David, is where I was pretty excited, because I'm an oval guy, but how about Hickory Speedway? They said it's finally here, joining 2021 Season 4. Check it out. And we got a YouTube video. We also have it on the Twitter. Pretty cool little short track. Looks like it might be fun. Now, I've seen some TV races on TV at this track. So it looks familiar, when you see it on the iRacing video.
It'll be interesting. I don't know if the Cup cars will go there anytime soon, but I bet you the majors will probably try to hold something here next year. They like to do those historical track races.
I would guess that something like Adam from our team would probably race on this track with the late models or whatever, right?
Probably.
Street stock, late model, those kind of cars for sure. It kind of reminds me of the North Wilkesboro with the way the wall looks, different colors and stuff. But that was the kind of the way they did it back then.
Kind of reminds me, like even looking at this track, kind of reminds me we have a couple small short tracks here in Canada that are kind of like this. I mean, obviously all these little small tracks are kind of the same because they're low budget places that are high fun tracks to drive.
iRacing doesn't have Memphis, does it? That one would be fun to run.
Now, we've covered sporadic stories about this track where as far as the billboards. So along the backstretch, they have a whole line of billboards. And we've talked about stories where companies advertised with Hickory directly to get on those billboards before iRacing did the scan, purposely trying to get into iRacing scan. Now, one of those billboards is none other than Trading Paints. And so earlier today, Trading Paints actually put on Twitter, the best person who, gets the best screenshot with the Trading Paints, billboard in the background, you're going to win a contest or something. And so it's pretty cool. And I think there was another sim company, one of the chassis companies also did a a billboard? Sim seats, maybe?
I'm not sure why iRacing just doesn't straight up sell certain billboard space on the tracks that isn't taken up in the real life track, right?
Is it maybe just a conflict of interest having a random sign that might not have anything to do with that city or whatever? Maybe, I don't know. It's just, I think having it authentic may be the most thing that they want to try. Maybe trying to sell sponsorship space isn't their end goal.
I like the snapshot in time. Okay, this is what it was when we scanned it. And, you know, if that's a snapshot in time, we shouldn't change it.
Well, one thing that does have a sponsor sold is the iRacing World of Outlaws Sprint Car World. They're doing the championship return, or the championship is returning, and the qualifying series has been announced. It's sponsored by NOS. The qualifying series is going to start on September 20th at Cedar Lake. The Speedway, it's going to I'm sorry, I'm reading and getting tongue twisted here. It's starting on September 20th at Cedar Lake Speedway and concludes on October 25th at Kokomo. Then on November 15th, they're going to begin the championship at Volusia.
So 6 races. These are official races. Anybody can enter. And you get 1 drop, and your best 5 count. Top 20 move on.
I've never been into driving these World of Outlaws, but I've always liked watching a lot of their events because they seem to be really competitive races and fun to watch because of how well the dirt seems to race on iRacing.
Yeah, it is going to be fun to watch, and that's going to go through November, December, and January. So that's going to be something for us to talk about on our show through the winter for sure.
Yeah, Brian really likes to cover the dirt races. He's probably one of our better dirt racers, in fact.
The $25,000 purse, pretty cool to have NOS Energy Drinks as a sponsor. I think that's a good tie-in, you know, with the World of Outlaw, you know, sprint car.
If you would have told me with the logo they just created there for this, it kind of reminds me, you know, it'd be like, wasn't NOS last season's sponsor? Just the way it looks, it kind of just reminds me. I forgot who was sponsoring it last year compared to, you know, it just kind of fits so well.
I want to say Morton Building Supply. I don't know.
Who?
Yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong. See, that's how it doesn't stick, does it? You know, those titles.
It wasn't Lucas Oil, was it?
Maybe it was.
I can't remember.
Well, how many cars does iRacing sponsor out there that's making it into victory lane, Greg?
Seems to be a lot, because is this the first time we've come across his name for this? Is this Alan?
No, it's his 3rd win this year.
Okay, no, but I think this is the first time. Have we brought him up on here with the iRacing sponsorship? But anyways, Alan Tardif is bringing home his 3rd win of the season at Beach Ridge Speedway in his iRacing sponsored late model, which actually I really like this. It's actually a really nice designed car too. I think it works well, and you know, it seems to be whatever iRacing puts their name on in the lower ranks seems to get it done.
I think they're picking the right drivers too to work with. I mean, Alan Tardif has some kind of relationship with iRacing. I think he might work for them, but he's a late model driver up in the Northeast, and he does run them as a sponsor. And he does pretty well. I think this is his 3rd win this year that we've talked about on the show. Pretty cool. The big one is release notes. They actually put them out early so you could get a gander at them. Boy, they were long. I want to say historically this may be the longest release notes ever.
Well, they've been getting longer and longer each build now for the last, I don't know, couple of years, have they not?
Seems like it, yeah. I mean, last season it was a record, I think, as well. But this one just goes on and on and on.
I think it's the detail that they're putting in what is is being said for all these as well. It's not just the fact that they're saying there's minor changes to the cup car or something like that. It's what the full changes are and everything that's involved.
So, and we've talked about some of these last week too, obviously, when we got some previews. So we're going to go through it. I'll start off. We got new cars: Ferrari Evo, Porsche 911, Hickory, Hungaroring, hosted AI, and that's where you and your friends, put up a room and AI fills the room. New healing, no damage mode. So, like, if you have no damage on in a race, like a hosted race, there's a message that comes up that says healing, and it like fixes the damage. So, like, it initially breaks it, but then it heals itself. That's how they changed it.
What is this, the Terminator guy, where he just heals after you get in the wreck?
Like, you get in the wreck and the car is toast, but then it heals, and that's how they do the no damage.
Now, you know what? This is actually really, really good. Especially for, watching the ladies race or calling the ladies race. And that was one of my big complaints when they wanted to take the damage off. And I understood why they wanted to do it, but I wanted the eye candy. I want to be able to see all that damage happen. So, I don't know, I guess from like a watching standpoint, like a broadcasting standpoint, this could be really, really good. So you still get the damage, and then the drivers get the no damage that they want.
And I think it's specifically so that they react more realistically when they hit each other, right? Because
right.
if your car is completely unbendable, it's going to bounce differently when it takes impact.
Oh, that's fair too.
One of the things I was just reading here, I didn't even realize this. Did you know that there's a fuel leak damage in this? I didn't realize that until I read what cars the fuel leak damage was on. It's kind of interesting how they've got that in here.
Oh, yeah. New damage model and art overhaul for the Spec Racer Ford and Street Stock. And I think this is the big one this season, road tires for all vehicles. So every vehicle out there, no matter what, has an option for a road tire. So this helps people like me who do weird combinations sometimes. I'll get in the cup car and I'll put it on a rally track, or I'll get in the Formula One car and put it on a dirt track or something like that, and try to do these weird combinations. Well, by having a road car tire available for every car, and if it doesn't have the correct tire for the right kind of track, it will default to the road tire. AI has been added for 5 new cars that didn't have it before, including the 2 new ones. Super late models have it now. And again, I think I'm looking forward to that big time. I'm going to set up a little AI season perhaps with the super lates and give it a shot. And then the supercars also have the AI.
There's even a minor tweak to the spotters, it looks like here. I guess they have 3 new messages. Coolant temperature is high, oil temperature is high, and tire tread's low. We've had the coolant ones, have we not? Or maybe that's probably in Crew Chief. It reminds me of it, not actual in race.
Yeah, and then AI was also added at 11 other new tracks, including Bristol, and some short tracks like Concord, Five Flags, Hickory. That's to support the super late thing. Hungaroring, Mount Panorama, Myrtle Beach, Phillip Island, Red Bull Ring.
It looks like a lot of the things on here are tire related for a lot of these updates. They're minor tire fixes and things like that for a lot of the road cars and obviously some of the ovals like we talked about last week.
Yep.
Well, what they try to do with this tire model is it's based on telling the model what the tire is made of, and they'll just tell it that it's made of something different to change its characteristics, and they'll do that for each car at least, right? It would be interesting to see if they started doing that for each track in a situation like NASCAR where they bring a different compound to every tire, right? But that's kind of how that tire model is designed to work. There's a lot of stuff on the damage model in here as well, right? We talked about it last week that the permanent steering damage on all of the road cars is gone. For example, like when we got busted in the Daytona race, the wheel was crooked, and we were like, "Yeah, that's it. It was not drivable. You just couldn't control it."
I think the biggest thing too, on some of these cars we've seen, there's some more animations inside the cockpit too, right? They've been talking about the feet or the pedals are now moving inside the cockpit on some of the models.
Some cars, not all of them.
Because I was just reading, it's on the Ferrari GTE. I'm just trying to find it through all the ones here. It's the first one I saw it on.
Got the Control Z on the camera as a hotkey now.
Now, I played around with that the other day. Does it always move? Do you have to hit something separately to lock it onto the car? Because when I started moving it, it just started moving the camera and moving the car out of view.
It's a free fly.
It's a drone, yeah.
So, because I like to still stay centered on the car, and so I had to just go back to doing it the old-fashioned way.
It's where, I guess, like I've always said, the controller comes in handy, where you can control it like a drone.
I like this one. The garage no longer prompts to save setup changes if you're attempting to exit without having modified the setup. That always bugs me. Like I go into the setup, but I don't change anything, and it asks me to save it.
Here's a funny one that I was looking at. The Ford GTE fixed an issue where the vehicle damage was increasing downforce.
Now they updated the sporting code, but I looked at it briefly, but I couldn't tell what was updated. Which I think they should like highlight that or something. Like here's what's changed, so you don't have to read the whole thing and try to guess what's changed because it's really long and boring.
Did you see that on your 87 car there, Mike? They've changed some gear ratios and some data for the engine mapping, but they've also added dirt tires.
Yeah, that's neat that they've got tires going on all these for all the different types of track and all that. Lots of changes to the car's little stuff. We're not going to go through all those.
Next gen throttle must be lifted to upshift now.
Or clutch, one of the two, right?
Yeah, I would guess you're just going to be blipping most of that time with that car when it's 5 speeds, especially if you're on the road course.
We do have the new 48 GT3 Evo. We talked about that last week as well.
Did you buy it?
No, I don't run that one in the GT3 class usually. Kind of like the Mercedes most of the time.
Here's one that would be interesting too, David, for us. The 919, the amount of MGU harvesting has been increased by 1.9 kilowatts. I don't know what that means and how many kilowatts it actually harvests, but it might be a big...
Isn't that what gets you to the future?
Well, that's gigawatts. Not gigawatts, but gigawatts. There's a difference.
We're close.
What it means is we're gonna have more battery now, which means more boost, which means it's gonna be a little bit stronger compared to the Audi, because they're always trying to get the balance right between those two cars.
Might be interesting to run this next 12 weeks with that.
The Ford GT has which is an older car, complete overhaul. I mean, it's got a whole laundry list of changes. So If you have that car, you might want to try that again.
I'm wondering if
And
that's
then
Mike. I'm just wondering if that's just because that car, they're trying to get people back into that car, maybe because that class has changed so much in the last year. That was like the oldest car, so now it's probably they're trying to bring it up to like say like the 21st century type thing.
could be Formula V. You can now reduce the maximum allowable fuel capacity to zero point 0.1 liter, and they have a new setup that was added called the Mount Washington Downhill Configuration Soapbox.
I was gonna say, is that gonna have point 0.1 in it, so it gets you going, and then you can't add any after that?
Well, that's what I'm thinking is how you would do this is you and your friends would get in there downhill, and everyone would be in their car ready to go, and you would go 1, 2, 3, go, and everyone would hit their gas, and they would all run out about the same time, because it's only 0.1, and that would just get the car going enough, and then it's a race.
That's awesome. So they're basically just fully embracing this mode that the community has come up with. How awesome is that?
Right. I bet you they had no idea we were going to do a soapbox, or I didn't think of it until somebody did it.
When do we start doing those Red Bull runs where they make those soapboxes and they gotta go down the hills and over those jumps? When does that come into iRacing?
Pretty cool.
iRace or iCore instead of parkour.
So the Lotus 49 and 79 have a bunch of changes. We've talked about those last week.
They did come out with a new course. Almost everything in the patch notes that's big, we've already kind of previewed in previous episodes, really. There's some small visual effects. It's a whole lot of... Looks like this is the fix a lot of little things patch, right?
So basically...
One thing I saw
go
on
ahead.
Twitter...
Go ahead, Mike.
Bristol's a half second faster than it was before.
It's probably just maybe... Is it a half second faster in the Cup car?
Yeah. Well, either truck or Xfinity.
Well, it might be a lot faster because last time we raced on it was dirty.
And then as far as track changes, I mean, minor stuff, it looks like.
They got rid of the grass area at turn 3 at Atlanta.
Because, it's no longer there, right?
That's right. Oh, guess what they did at Phoenix? Not what you think.
Track surface properties have been updated. Well, that's what they said with Bristol, too.
Yeah, I was just trying to get your hopes up.
So the one thing that it's a good find there, though, Tony, because the asphalt textures on the apron have been adjusted to better match where the seams are. So does that help where we can go down in turn, what is it? I guess it's R3 and 4, but it's the NASCAR 1 and 2. No, I don't know. Anyways, R3 and 4. You could probably maybe go down lower there on the apron and use that corner a bit differently.
I think it's just set up to look more like it's supposed to look with the actual textures. That's a graphics thing.
To line up with the seams in the asphalt there.
Maybe, yeah.
They have lines, basically.
Maybe they should just have the full update for the track.
I like this one. Mount Washington has a new set of iRacing awards available for earning exclusively from activities at the Mount Washington Auto Road. These are brand new and may not be applied retroactively based on your event history at this track.
So anything you've tried recently, Mike, it doesn't go towards these?
That means you'll just have to run it more.
I just need to do it again and start over.
All right, guys, incoming next 3 or 4 weeks, Mount Washington talk.
Well, I got to go see what the certificates are for first. Like, successfully made it up the hill, or what is it?
It's kind of interesting. Haven't we always inquired if they've added some of these things to that certificates and achievement stuff? It looks like obviously that they can change things after they've done them, right?
It's been so long since I've gone back and looked at that.
Do they even have that in the new UI?
Your favorite topic. Is that on the scripts or
no? But let's talk about that. I was trying to go into a hosted race, and I was, keeping an open mind and use the new UI or the beta UI as you call it. And I'm looking at the list of races and hosted. It's a lot of good information there. But I'm wondering, if I click on this one, is it a race or is it a practice or is it both? Is there a qualifying? Is it open or is it single? How long is the race? It's not there. The information is not there. Now you could click in and drill in and find it, but to not have it on the page where I'm making the choice, that's just plain out ridiculous. It really is.
I still don't use the UI, and that's especially for the hosted races. If I want to do a hosted race, I go to the website. It's just it's still better.
Let's talk about build day though, and then how would we go iRacing on build day? Because guess what, the website worked, right, David? But the UI wasn't working.
Yeah, and that was some kind of back end issue, and they had put out a notice that they were going to go ahead. They found the problem and were going to go ahead and do a downtime and kill all the servers. Like 10 minutes into NIS, we were like, "Oh, great, NIS isn't going to happen." I went ahead and signed up anyway, and I'm hoping, I'm thinking they realized, wait, we probably shouldn't down the servers in the middle of 200 people signed up for NIS, and went ahead and let it run, since they could still get in with the website.
It's just baffling that you're going to a place to sign up for a race, and you can't tell if it's a race. I digress.
Well, as we continue to talk about some of the things that come out with Season 4, there are a bunch of new templates released. The Paint Master Brian Simpson, he's posted the new paint templates for the new Porsche 911 Cup. That's a nice typo in there, the 922 new car. So the new Porsche and the new Ferrari, they've got the templates out there.
Yeah, and there was a couple other cars, SRF, that was updated a little bit. Just slightly changed, but you still need to update your paints. And there was another one.
Tony, this one might interest you because you like to run the fantasy thing, so you definitely want to know how all the races are going to go next year. Do we know anything about the NIS 2022 schedule yet?
I don't think we do because I'm completely lost. There we go. I don't think we do because NASCAR hasn't let us know what they're doing. Now, I guess it wouldn't really matter. They were talking about the Los Angeles thing, but that's just the Clash, and we don't really do the Clash per se with the. So I guess that probably wouldn't really matter much, but I don't know. I guess they're talking about maybe Gateway's going to get a race and Pocono's gonna lose one. Now they were talking about this on Door Bumper Clear, and because Pocono doubles up on one weekend, so is that going to add a weekend to the season?
Well, it's taken up. They're going to be one less week off, right? So we're going to have one more race a week, or we're going to have one more week of racing this year or next year than we did this year because of all this.
Yeah. They're going to add a week.
Well, Pocono used to be 2 weekends until COVID started. In the last 2 years, it's been a doubleheader, right? Does this mean that it's been a doubleheader but just one weekend? So does this mean it's not going to be a doubleheader anymore? Is that what they're saying?
Well, it's just going to be one race. I'm sorry, Tony.
Yeah, they have 2-point races, basically, even because it is a doubleheader, but it's a double points, right? So they're just going down to one race. That's the way I read it. And then St. Louis or Gateway is getting the other one.
So that means that Pocono race goes back to a longer distance race probably then too.
Or at least a 400. Hopefully not a
NBC will
500.
determine that.
I'm excited about Gateway. That's two races right within driving range, and I actually have a family right there in St. Louis. So
Gateway's fun too.
Well, and I like this because what did we find this year when they added Nashville? That was a hell of a race for us to race this year. Another new track on the track that's not a road course, which I know a lot of people don't like, but it's really nice to have a different oval to go to, and that's an egg style ovalish, right?
it's not exactly Darlington, but it's got the uneven corners, right? You got a tighter corner and a wider corner, and I think it's a little flatter. It was exciting truck racing the last couple of years, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting the chance to see it.
I'd be happier with one less road course as well.
I think you're probably going to end up with the same amount of road courses as last year. Well, we had one extra because California didn't get a race, so that wouldn't have happened. So we would have had 5 road courses this year instead of 6. So California will have a race next year. You're probably thinking, so that's one less road course on the track, so we get that track back.
Gateway from my memory, is a flat oval, very flat, like no banking, and really fun in an Indy car. I don't know if I've ever run a Cup car there though.
You did back in the R Factor days.
Do you think because of it being a newer track, do they try and go with the same weekend that IndyCar's there and double up again? Because IndyCar will be racing there, and then have NASCAR there the same weekend, and I mean they can run.
We not worked at Indy.
Yeah, I mean they can run Xfinity and stuff and trucks that at Gateway too the same weekend as well.
They just gotta rotate the semi trucks in and out, right?
I'm pretty sure they, inside and outside the track, you only need the trucks in there for the days that they're racing on, right? Especially depending on, we don't know what the practice schedules are going to be like next year either, right?
Cool.
Well, we'll probably be talking schedule next week. How about this? No, Mike, you wanted to try this, or was this Greg that wanted to try this? The GT3 is going into reverse.
This would be a Mike thing.
Or KPH, yeah. This is definitely a Mike type of event for sure.
Could I do it though? I don't know. This is crazy. So the new Porsche car. Now they've done this before, where they release a car and they don't put some kind of limiter on the reverse gear, and you can end up going really fast in reverse. I remember this on some car somebody did this, but apparently the new Porsche, you can go 180 in reverse. And so these guys were racing on Watkins Glen going backwards, basically. Tony Kanaan took the win.
I would try this at like Daytona, where you could try and draft backwards.
It's amazing how good these guys are at doing it,
I don't know if I could concentrate long enough looking backwards. I just don't know if I could or not.
Well, I mean, ultimately, if you're just using your rearview mirror, especially if you've got the big virtual mirror, you're just looking at a smaller screen and looking like you're going forward. What's going to throw you, though, is the reversing of the steering.
Well, I'm used to that in a transport truck.
Yeah,
it's
not
hard
at that
enough.
kind of speed.
It's so hard already to drive going forward. I just can't imagine how much I would wreck trying to do this.
Well, you'd have to practice at it, right?
These guys are doing really good in this video, and I can't imagine they had a lot of practice.
They probably still had more than you.
Well, I'm going to say Tony Kanaan's had a lot more practice in his career.
Are you guys ready to talk some controversial topics?
I don't know if it's controversial, but it's something that comes up ever so often, right?
Dynamic track, where art thou?
Yep. Brian Blackford kind of started this conversation on Twitter about his regrets in missing the dynamic track changes in iRacing. And he had a really good Twitter discussion about it with a lot of different people weighing in about why it's this way and whatnot. And then this spilled over into the forums, and we have some forum posts as well that went through and talked about what went wrong. David, you went through those forum posts. I mean, what were your takeaways?
Well, there was a good reply from the current community manager. It wasn't Greg West. What was his name?
It was the engineer, Matt.
Yeah, Matt was replying, and I really do kind of agree with what he was saying. They haven't completely done away with the dynamic track, but it's really hard to have it's really hard to have multi-groove racing in real life. How much multi-groove racing is there with that low horsepower package? It's really coming down more to that. And I just literally finished listening to Door Bumper Clear on my way home from work today, saying the same thing. It's just the better racing comes with the lower horsepower package. And I was passing people last night.
Higher horsepower.
Sorry, yeah, I said it backwards. But I made passes on the outside and inside at Richmond. Why? Because it was the high horsepower. So you could actually make the high side work because you aren't full throttle on the inside. So that's, I think, what's really the problem.
I think where the argument here kind of runs a little thin is that some of these tracks like Atlanta, where you should have had multiple grooves there with, if we had heated up the top line or had more rubber there, the top line should have prevailed on older tires. There's certain places where these should have, some of this stuff should have worked with, but I can see what they're saying here with the 550 high downforce. Yeah, it's becoming, you race for a couple laps and then you follow the leader for the rest of until there's a caution or something. It's really hard to get by.
Well, and the reason the high line doesn't change is because if the horsepower is lower, then you're just not getting that advantage of being able to keep it on the higher RPM side with the higher horsepower, right? It just ends up always being the lower side that's going to have more advantage, or the higher side, or everybody else just stays on the outside, and you can't pass on the inside, because if you're not getting off the gas as much and you're not getting on the brakes, it doesn't matter where you are on the track. The cars just there's not enough change to make the moves.
Right. So that's what Matt was saying. I don't know if it's in defense, but it's his perspective or iRacing's perspective on it. Now, I want to read Blackford's post here on Twitter, just because the way he says it is a good way to understand about where we were and where we are now. So let me read this. It says, quote, "I try to keep things positive, but man, do I miss dynamic track on iRacing. The game felt so alive, and I wish the NASCAR industry could have experienced it during. We were searching everywhere for grip and heat naturally balanced most lanes. Would love to be part of the solution." And then another one, "Running in rubber has always been the meta with V7. Until that changes, we will always gravitate towards the same line. Some of the recent track edits have been okay, but it's only a shadow of things from 2015 to 2018. I don't have all the answers, but I'd be happy with a V6 drop down."
Yeah, but what else happened? What else changed?
Well,
I'm in Matt's camp on this one completely, 100%. Because I hate the low downforce package. What else changed in 2019? What do we go to?
Well, here's what he says. So later, a guy named David Tucker, and I don't think it's the David Tucker we usually talk about, he asked What was the reason given for iRacing removing dynamic track? And Brian Blackford responds, they didn't remove it, but there was a series of updates that reduced its effectiveness. A lot of those updates improved realism, but it also created a single preferred lane at most of the tracks.
Well, does this kind of go with what Matt was writing in this one part of his statement here? He goes, last week he did a few runs with Challenger at Michigan in the Gen 6 car, and he was able to run him down on the top line. However, he started the run without going wide open and had to wait for him to get to where he had to lift before he could make anything work. Compared to the Xfinity car, where both of us had to get on the brakes from the start, and it should be apparent that the high amount of throttle time on the Gen 6 car will mean the much longer path for the upper lane than the bottom lane at Michigan. So, like, if you're on the throttle all the time, you want the shortest lane if you're not braking at all.
And what Blackwood was talking about, having to search for grip, was in a car with not just 750 horsepower, but what was it? It was closer to 850, 900, right? Those cars were so much harder to drive at even at the mile and a half, that it wasn't just about the dynamic track and the track settings. It was just, there's more horsepower. It's just that simple. And you see that in the real life racing. The most exciting race at Nashville, really, that had the most side-by-side racing, where both lines were working, was the Xfinity cars. When I watched the Cup race, it was pretty exciting, but it just wasn't quite as good as the Xfinity car, because they couldn't stay side-by-side the whole time, with it not having to lift as much.
Well, what the true thing should be, and what he was kind of getting at there, is if you're going to the bottom lane and you're keeping it wound up and then can come all the way back out to the wall on the exit, and the person who goes on the top lane is just running it in there and doing the same thing, yeah, it's distance over time, but we need to get to the point where is that person that is deciding to use the bottom, they have to slow down to use that bottom, to use the shorter distance, but the person on top, they can either, when the actual racing, they slow down earlier, but they get on the throttle faster, and that's why they come out of it that way. And that's what we're missing is having to use the brakes is what's making all these, a lot of this car so controversial.
Now, in the forum post about this, Ezekiel Reyes puts out a very compelling discussion where he actually shows video as well of how it used to race versus how it races now. He compares peak racing back in the day compared to Coke racing now at the same track, and some of the differences, and trying to point out, how dynamic track has gone away. And it had sparked a very good discussion, and obviously got the staff member to weigh in and give us more information. So kudos to Ezekiel for getting involved in the discussion, at least.
But the track is not the biggest thing that changed the most. Again, what changed the most is the car.
So we beat that with to death. Now let's move on to the next part of this, which was super speedway package. So this kind of got on a tangent thread, I would call it, but Liam Brotherton basically is putting out the plea, hey, we need to do some tweaking here too. Now, what do you think about this one, David?
Well, I saw the Highline work, but what was happening in a lot of cases is in last year's package, to make the middle lane work, you had to side draft the mother out of the inside line. Just sit there and basically more, not to pull them back, but just to steal as much of their draft to get you going faster as you could. So we all kind of learned to run that inside lane right. It just squeezed them down as much as you could all the way. Well, I learned pretty quick in the Daytona races this week or last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. That's not how to run the outside line, because staying in and side drafting is actually costing this second lane speed. So once once I had some other guys basically show us how you actually want to take it out to the wall, that was really fast. And we showed how quick we could run in our league race too, when there was enough of us lined up. So that was part of it. But because so many people were failing to get the second line to run, everybody was just hunting for the bottom, and it was affecting driver behavior. Now, in the real life racing, they all go up to the high side, but that's because turbulence is a bigger factor and it doesn't affect it affects the real cars more than it affects our cars as far as the real life versus the sim track. But it kind of was a combination of the new package and not everybody knowing how to run it, and everybody just kind of chickening out and riding in the bottom. It resulted in a lot of boring racing, really.
There were some good tidbits in here about why this doesn't work. Matt Holden was saying, and he even provided a visual representation here of two lines side by side and why the outside line isn't working. And it's because he's saying the lead car needs to be the one that's down next to the inside lane. And what's happening a lot of times, it's the rear cars at the back of the outside lane that are getting close. And that's going to make the back lane go backwards. You really need the front of the line to be the one closest to the inside lane.
And also, anytime if you're coming out on the straightaway and you're going out to the wall all the time, you then have to trust all the guys behind you not to go ahead and take it 3 wide. And in pickup racing, whether it's the A Opens or the NIS, when you don't know as many of the drivers around you, compared to say the real life Cup Garage, where they are basically campmates every week for the entire summer, it's just a little bit harder to trust that some guy's going to stay behind you the whole time if you're actually going to take it out to the wall. Because as soon as you do that, the inside lane is unprotected, or the middle lane.
So yeah, another part of this discussion I found fascinating was Liam had said, for instance, earlier this year, I found that working with regionally similar drivers for whatever reason resulted in catastrophically different runs and ease of pushing. For instance, while pushing or being pushed with Logan Clampett, who is about 10 minutes away from me, we were unbelievable working together. We could slam into each other, push all over each other's rear end, and get massive runs that could walk away from the field. However, when I tried to do the same technique with someone like Seth DeMerchant, who is in a different part of the U.S., I couldn't even replicate the same speed. Needless to say, the pushing was 20 times more difficult.
And the staff did confirm that they saw that in some of their testing too, with Challenger, and I think Matt. Right, they noticed that as well. Another thing that did get covered, I think that was it. Ray Alfella picked up maybe that it was Roger Carruth picked up that the side draft air hole bubble is a little too wide. They think on the cars. And
the neat thing is, Matt said, he's asked Christian to put together some specific tests to continue to work on this and make adjustments, I guess. Fascinating.
Well, Tony, if you're with us, the season 4 schedules are out.
Yes, they are. Tyler Hudson posted them up in the forums as he usually does. So they got the centripetal as a placeholder for Hickory and Hungaring. That they gotta change the name of that track. It just there's no flow to it. It just sounds weird. Yeah. The Porsche GT3 Cup will replace the 991 once the car is released. The Ferrari 488 will replace the 2021 will replace the other one once it's released. And says here this does not include the. I got no idea what the heck they're talking about.
So I went through the schedule and kind of looked like at the A series, and nothing surprising. Kind of, maybe I'm surprised to see Auto Club on there since it's going away.
I think what it is the Creventic and NEC have been ongoing series that are running almost like NIS that are running over season 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're full year series, so they're not gonna cut a car from that series at like they're replacing the cars in the series that are starting new seasons.
Oh,
yeah, that's exactly what it was. You know what? I've never even heard of those 2 series before.
It's a road thing, so yeah, you were probably unconscious.
Very much so.
The GTE Endurance Series will become the IMSA Endurance Series now. So IMSA's going to have different names for they got a bunch of different series.
Now, earlier, I thought that the Porsche 992 thing was a typo. Is that actually the model number for the new Porsche?
It would be, yeah, for it.
Okay, learned something.
Speaking of road cars, we got a post-build video about the Ferrari Evo, showing it go around the track, and some British commentary there. Oh, no, I think that's Christian from staff, perhaps.
This video we did actually have last week. This is the same video. And we just lost Mike.
They re-released it then.
Yeah, possibly.
So that's interesting.
I don't remember watching this Hungaroring, though, last week.
Yeah, this came in post-build as well. It's the new introductional video showing off all the looks and sounds of that track.
In Mike's favorite car.
I love the sound of that car. I mean, that engine just screams.
Technically, it's what the F1 car should still be running. The V10s or V8s or V12s is all that I think those cars should ever have, or those type of things have.
It's a neat video because at the beginning, they show an empty track. They show the flags flying. They show, empty grandstands, different corners. And then they show the car going around the track. It's kind of neat.
And this is a really technical track too. It's got some really nice passing zones, but it's a very unforgiving track too if you make a mistake. I'm actually interested to see when the Porsche Cup Series races at some of these new tracks that they've added this year they haven't been to yet.
The second half of the video is an onboard lap as well. It looks like we have the new tree model from what I can see visually here.
They do look a little bit more dense and better animated, don't they?
Yeah, kind of full, roundish, yeah. All right, this next one is...
Yeah, I was going to pick this one up.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
So, if you're following along in the notes, we've been having some issues with the website with Brian and his bandwidth. So, if you are following along, that it says story title, but this is talking about a couple of different setup shops, and there's a setup shop that is buying similarly named URLs or addresses, domains to other shops, and then using that to direct traffic to their site. And so Ryko Motorsports, I'm not even going to name the other one, but Ryko Motorsports wanted to point out that their address includes an S at the end. It's sports, not sport. So it's www.ryko-motorsports.com. And they wanted to be sure that everybody knows that and avoids going to the incorrect domain and ending up in the wrong setup shop.
So you type in the website, but you forget to put the S at the end. You'll still end up at a setup site that you can buy a setup, but it's not the right one. So, and this isn't the only company. It was all, there was another one that we found RocketRacingSetups.com also put up an alert that this other setup company we won't name bought RocketRacingSetup.com. So if you didn't type in the S, you would go to them as well and buy their stuff. So it's pretty, I don't know, is this a shady practice? I mean, this might be normal business practice in other kind of markets, but I don't know about iRacing.
It's shady as hell.
Yeah, this has got to be. I haven't read all the legalese of the end user license agreement with iRacing, but they've got to be bumping up against something in there that iRacing could come in and say, hey, y'all need to go somewhere else and get out of our service.
My question is, any of the people that have found these setups, are the setups even working in iRacing? Are they just something basic? Like, was there any complaints about the setups, or was it just that they were piggybacking off these sites? Like, I know it's what they're doing is wrong. I'm just questioning, were the setups that were being bought anything? Was there any talk about that?
I don't know if we know any of that.
Yeah, there's the information we have off of the post says nothing about the quality of the sets. But how can you trust a site that's going to pull something that's shady? How can you trust anything?
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, like, let's just call it what it is. It's a huge douche move, and they're a bunch of douchebags, and you shouldn't support a bunch of douchebags.
I mean, whoever did it, because I just went to that actual website, the Speed 51 one, when you don't put the S on the Ryko one. And
I'm going to have to cut that out.
Sorry. Anyways, but I went there just to see what was on it. They've put some value into what it looks like. So obviously someone is trying to play the duping game with it. It looks like a professional site.
Well, I mean, anybody can do a professional site. What you got to know is how do the sets work. We've done a lot of testing over the years, figuring out who puts out the best sets. And some of that will come down to just personal preference too. But what a lot of guys that I've talked to several of the setup builders, I'm kind of friends with one of the big shop owners, and what some of these shops are doing is they're coming in, running some really good hot laps with a near Coke Series level driver, throwing up their web address and then leaving, and then not even making that set available when you actually go to the shop. They're not actually selling the same set that they use to set the times.
Well, we figured that all over the years, right? Like, and this isn't a shade on, what a company like VRS, they would be putting out what's good for their customers. I don't know how many people with their mentality going in and say they see the VRS logo on the track, are they thinking they're getting the same thing that someone's running in that's sponsored by VRS type thing. So but VRS will tell you they're making the setup that's. But you know what I'm saying, right?
This is a not as advanced setup because they want it to be. They'll say they want it to be more adjustable and more accessible to everybody. Because if we try to run some of the sets that the Coke Series drivers run in some of these places, we probably can't handle them. They're probably just a little bit beyond our control. Right?
Well, I'm just saying, like, with some of the naive people when they, what they think too, right? Like, we know over the history of a lot of these sets, some of them are built to just be comfortable for someone to get out there. I'm just thinking, oh, look, they're advertising the virtual racing school. Is that what I'm getting? Or is, any of the other ones that we have? The Max, doesn't the 1100 iRating or 11,000 iRating Max, was it Binnicky, have his own site for sets and things like that? Like, I just think the setup part, it's misleading when you buy sets sometimes what you're getting.
Now I want to back up because I went while you guys were talking and looked for those awards that you can win. They announced in the release notes, and I found them. And it says one of them is called Beat Travis. Use the Subaru to beat Travis Pastrana's hill climb record of 5:28.6. can be earned in non-team hosted or time attack events. The next one is easier down than up. Use the Subaru to beat Travis's record. Then Quattro Extreme. Use the Audi 90 GTO on an uphill. Do a downhill in the V. Do a Pro Truck on the uphill.
Now, does that not seem... I would think that iRacing is putting that out, use the Subaru that's the paid car to get this certificate, so pay for this extra car to run down the hill to try and beat Travis's thing if you want the certificate, instead of just picking one of the 3 rally cars. It's that specific rally car.
Yeah, that is annoying.
I don't think that's that big of a deal.
No, but it's just funny.
The whole certificate thing is just, that's kind of stealing from the way phone games work nowadays. To just
achievements,
to try to keep you
trophies,
try to keep you in there. Yeah, I don't think they were specifically pulling something like the company that shall not be named.
Here's one. If you don't like the weather, just wait a minute. It says complete a run up the mountain with greater than 15% fog. And then here's one. Are you afraid of the dark? Complete an uphill run at night in any car.
So I'm guessing you would pick one with headlights.
Right.
That would be a tough... Have you done it in the dark, Mike?
I have not tried to do it in the dark, no. No, I got something to try.
Maybe try it rolling it down. What would be funny is go down in the soapbox car in the dark.
I still have not tried going down. I still have just done up.
I swear we should still host one of those and just do it as a team with a bunch of people.
All right, so good segue, Greg. As we talk about hosting, listener Scott Ross contacted me this week and said he's going to host some fun Tour Mod 100 lap race at Dover Saturday night with fixed setups and no damage with an incident limit. And so he said, please mention this on the show. It was a big help last week 13 when he did it before. So it's 100 laps at Dover, Tour Mod, Saturday, no damage. Tire changes will be available. There'll be iRacing controlled cautions. Practice at 8:30 Eastern, qualifying at 9, and race at 9:10 Eastern.
That'll be an interesting race combination.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to remember to jump in there. That looks like fun. Some other race reminders, David.
Well, we do have the Bodhurst 1000 coming up. I know Greg might be trying to find one of the Aussie guys to run with, or as a last resort, he might beg me to run it so I can go wreck the car again on the first stint.
Next weekend.
Is that what happened? No, did I run a stint and then you wrecked?
I
think I started it.
That year, I mean, I think I could do better this time, but I just have to accept that I can't go that fast.
I know you beat yourself up about it. You beat yourself out about it, like when I destroyed the car at Le Mans. I think it was that was our even. We got even that way.
Yeah, but the nothing was as emotionally devastating as destroying the car, literally coming into the pits to let me get into the car. Okay, it's like, all right, you run this clean stint for 2 hours. I'm getting upped up. I'm ready to go. Whoop! Oh, race over. That's soul crushing, man. But yeah, the race is this weekend. No, it's not this weekend. It's the 17th to 19th.
I didn't get my patch. Weekend. That's why it happened. We didn't have a patch for the car.
All right, another race I found. This one is interesting and caught my eye. Sprint cars at Talladega, September 24th at 8 p.m. They're going to have a broadcast, 76 lap race. Link cost to enter is the event is a donation to the GoFundMe set up to support Marshall and Chabral Pruitt as Chabrol continues her ongoing battle with cancer. Now, Marshall Pruitt writes for Racer.com, and he follows the IndyCar series very closely as a journalist. And he has a great podcast about IndyCars, and he's a good guy. And I hate to see that his wife is going through this, and so hopefully all of us will be able to go help support her on her battle with cancer. And it looks like a fun event. There's going to be 4 practice sessions leading up to the event. They're going to have the Robin Miller pole night on the 22nd as well. And pole sitter is going to get a $50 prize and so forth. So if you want to participate, check the forums for Intimidator Challenge. We also have the link to the Google Doc in our show notes, and or you can hook up with the guy on Twitter, the guy putting it on, and we got his link as well.
We also have the Operation Motorsports Benefit 4 hours at the Glen that's coming up on September 12th.
That's this weekend.
Yep, and they're trying to put equipment into first responders who are disabled. That's that one, right?
Yep. No, military, ex-military who we're getting them the sim equipment. Not first responder.
Oh, it's there to remember the first responders from 9/11.
Oh, okay. I guess I read it wrong, but
one more race to cover.
Well, let me say this, David. The Operation Motorsport is a group that supports the military with the sim equipment. Now, this particular event, I think, like you said, is to recognize the 20-year anniversary of September 11th as well.
As well as the service members who pushed over in the events afterwards. And then we have this 8-hour IMSA race at Daytona.
Next weekend.
Take your pick.
Yeah, and that's a autism charity for a local autism event. But that's looks fun. 8 hours at IMSA.
And it's going to include all of the current cars that normally run in IMSA races. That's starting at 1 p.m. The practices are starting at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then after that, I think that covers up topics, and we're ready for some housekeeping, Mike.
Housekeeping it is. We'll talk Aftermath recording, I believe, is coming up. Tony, what do we got?
Yes, sir. That is this Saturday-ish, hopefully. What do we got going on? I don't know. Well, we're definitely going to be talking about the build. There's some juicy stuff in there that I know we're going to want to go over. The guys have been doing a bunch of racing. Chris has got himself more upgrades, pretty much like a whole new setup at this point in time. And we got a ladies race coming up in a couple weeks, and we will be back in the booth for that. So we got lots to talk about.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. And we're also on the Performance Motorsports Network. Check us out over there. Fantasy.
Well, I guess if you want to get a playoff started right, it's best to get started on top, right? I had another good week, and I'm starting to get called a cheater for this because I think this is like 3 weeks in a row now.
Hey, you're just playing smart. That's all.
Of picking Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, I kind of spread mine out. I had Denny in my lineup. I had Larson in my lineup. But I did take some hits. It just wasn't as bad as other people, because I think I had Kyle Busch in my lineup as well. I'm not sure. I may have been able to get him swapped out. I know I had to take a hit on one of the guys, but it looks like our points have been reset for the playoffs. So that just kind of shakes everything up, first race going in. But, a quick rundown of the top 10. Where are you, Greg? Oh, yeah, you got to scroll right down for that guy.
Like I said, I had a bad dart. I didn't have any of the bonus points, and Kyle was one of my players. I think I got him in the garage after he did it, and then who was the other? There was one other guy that was really bad. Oh, I had Al Morello as well.
Yeah, it's so tough to pick a Stewart Haas driver. Except Kevin, but even same with even with Harvick, you got to be like so careful on where you're gonna put them. They've just been running like garbage, and
then he goes out this week and has a good week, or would have had a good week.
Yeah. But hey, let's do a quick rundown of the top 10. TG1 Racing is in first. What the heck? SRO SSLX. They're just messing with me because you can't freaking even pronounce that name. They're in second. Fatboy 1990s, third place. Kerry Cial in fourth, followed by Res Dog, Cletus 45, Tifosi's Tony the Tiger in seventh. Conklin Speedworks in eighth, Racing Goodyear's in ninth, and Just in Time is in 10th. And our buddy Chris, Jedi McFly, he's almost as far down as you there, Greg. We'll have to find out on the aftermath where he went wrong with his picks there.
Chris and I can't seem to stay away from each other.
Kyle Pendergraft did worse than all of us, so I think he'll get the award. Well, actually, it was Adam. He was at the bottom.
Yeah, it looks like he maybe didn't even put picks in. Like when you're down maybe that far, I think some of those may not even put picks in.
Come on, Adam.
Yeah, I didn't go through on the weekend and see, but yeah, like if you got like 46 points, you haven't really picked anybody, and you just kind of going on with the last time you put a lineup in.
I think Adam was probably working on putting a new front clip on his real race car.
It got destroyed.
But yeah, exciting playoff time. Love it. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. The first race down, and yeah, big shakeup in the numbers here.
All right, let's jump right into the hardware. Mike, have you taken a look at this new EG-R GTR aluminum rig?
I have. This thing is a beauty, and I found a new rig last week I really like, but this one is nice too. Saw this baby on Instagram, and man, it's like beefy. Like the base of it is like really thick, and I don't know. It looks like it's overbuilt, maybe even. And the triples are integrated into the cockpit. Now, I don't know if I like that or do I want freestanding. I don't even know which one I prefer.
Depends on if you want to go motion or not, because I don't think it looks so good if your monitors are not attached if you go motion.
Do you think with a direct drive wheel on something like that, you would get a little bit of bounce in the monitors maybe, or do you think it's solid enough? That's why I would.
That's the other thing.
That's why I would go free flowing, because you if you have any shake in your rig, you always have the monitor shake, right?
Well, these monitor mounts are, attached directly to those posts that would attach to the base. If they were built in down towards the bottom of the base of the rig, you'd probably find a lot less movement. But where they're mounted, yeah, Greg, I'd be worried about that as well.
Yeah, because they're, like you said, they're mounted to the same pillar that holds the base
Well,
of the wheel.
and I think with that bracket that they have, it's a very thin bracket that the monitors are, it's jumping across from one part of the 80/20 to the 80/20 mounting bracket, or to the 80/20 mount for the screen. So what transfers into that thin piece of metal might be a little bit more than being a solid part of the 80/20, right?
No, if you're on a motion rig and they're not free floating, those monitors are going to be bouncing around anyway. From the motion rig's going to put a lot more energy into the monitors than the direct drive's going to.
Well, you've got your regular corner bracings down at the bottom of those posts that go up, for your wheelbase. But then you also, for like a mouse, and it looks like maybe possibly a keyboard on the other side, is more supporting brackets. But static, it's not bad. For motion, I don't know though. Still, even with motion, I don't know if I would want that style of monitor mounts. Is like you said, I think that would bounce all over the place. Way too much for motion.
I like the setup. Like it definitely looks good. It definitely has a simplistic design to it.
Now, $965 US, or 13,700 rands, and rands is South Africa. So this company is actually EG Evolved Simulator Rigs out of South Africa. And we've talked about them, I think, once before. This is a new cockpit they put together, and they're serious. It looks like a pretty neat offering at a reasonable price for what you're getting.
Mike, can you make sense of this part of it? It says, we can supply you with a generic reclinable racing seat or a proper Sparco. Is that up on top of the cost of this, or is it something you get your choice? Have you seen?
Well, the racing seat is excluded. It does say that.
Okay, so maybe it comes with just the generic reclinable, and then you upgrade for a Sparco.
Okay, so let's back this up here a bit, because I think there's a little bit something that needs to be pointed out. So this is 900, just under $1,000 US.
Right.
Okay, so for under $1,000 US, you are getting a direct drive mount, you're getting a keyboard tray, you're getting the mouse tray, and you're getting the monitor mounts with the VESA mounts.
Everything but the seat.
You know what? Like, honestly, for this price, if you want to go motion with this, buy a couple extra pieces of profile and rig it up for just under $1,000. But like, yeah, you're doing all right. Even with the short pitfalls.
Yeah, I was gonna say the value there.
Like a P1X or one of those other ones, you have to add all that stuff. The keyboard is $100, and the mouse thing's $50, and the drink holder's $20, and all the little things add up.
That's something we like to talk about is how many gutters we can see, which tells us how wide the base is and the pillars are. But another thing you're going to have to watch for that we don't necessarily see on every Instagram post that we analyze is the gauge or the weightiness of the aluminum. That's something you'll want to look into that might go into the price. And I don't know that for this rig or just about any of the rigs, because that can determine how much flex you're going to get or not get. It's just how heavy is the aluminum.
Well, yes, that does make sense there, David. But if you this is pretty beefy looking, and it looks like it has a lot of extra supports that I've not seen on other rigs, that I don't see on my own rig. So that could just kind of compensate if they are using a bit of a lesser gauge, which they most likely are, but it looks like they've compensated for that properly.
Well, and I'm not saying that this is a less expensive gauge. I don't know that. I'm just saying when you actually do your research, make sure you inquire into that, because this does have a lot of additional bracing, which heavy or light gauge, it helps, because triangles, right? Triangle is the strongest shape in geometry. Anytime you see that.
Yeah, and then obviously shipping from Africa, yeah, that's a consideration.
It'd at least be a couple $100 or
You would
more.
think.
Yeah, that was how much it was for anything from Europe. So, is anybody particularly excited about the next set of NVIDIA cards coming out?
How about we get the cards that are here first? Can't even get those on the shelf.
And get new ones like every 3 months now.
Feels like it.
It's amazing how
Still rocking
fast.
a 1070.
I was gonna say it's amazing how fast technology goes by us, doesn't it?
So this report is NVIDIA GeForce RTX 40 series mass production to start in the middle of 2022. According to new reports, NVIDIA's Hopper architecture could tape out at the start of 2022 or late 2021 at an early estimate. Meanwhile, mass production of the GeForce RTX 40 series GPUs is expected to start in the middle of next year, so an autumn or winter 2022 release could be on the cards for NVIDIA's next generation graphics card. Maybe this is their little announcement because of what Intel was telling us about their new cards that are coming.
So if it's going to be late 2022 like official release, so then that would probably get it in our hands by mid to late 2024.
There you go.
I knew the exponential math was going there.
Depends if we have to ever stop dealing with COVID or not, because that's just putting every supply chain under crazy stress.
Yeah, can't get people back to work to make the things, and can't get the products to build the things.
All right, how about our seat? We have a new P1 Sim chassis in a variety of colors with your choice with or without the Sparco seat for $1,200. And I like the color. I don't know that these different color options really appeal to me. This particular one, it's got this really bright orange tubular bars for the wheel support that come up off of the base. I don't know. It's not my type of rig, and it seems overpriced.
I think the reason that the price might be so much is if you watch him assembling it, the weight. If you see how heavy everything seems like, that would be probably, I don't know, I'm guessing a 200 to 400 pound rig. Maybe less, maybe just less than that, maybe a 200-pound rig. Like, it looks heavy.
There's no play.
But there's definitely some beefiness to it. I like the way it looks. I just don't. It's pretty generic for the price.
And limiting.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to have as much adjustability, all right? And what about adding stuff on? You want to stick how are you going to mount a button box on that sucker?
Shifter. Was there a plate on the side? I didn't even see one.
Cup holder. I mean, where is the cup holder going to go?
No spot for your chocolates, Mike.
I know.
It's out.
It is definitely pretty heavy and sturdy. One question maybe, though, is the Sparco seat included in the $1,200 price? It's not particularly clear with the headline we have on there.
I would hope with that price it would be.
I mean, the range of Sparco seats it can go from $100 to $600 to a couple of grand as well.
When you see a rig like this, it makes you really appreciate the flexibility of an 80/20 style rig and in the ability to mod it. Like if you got something like this, you're not modding that at all.
This is the type of rig I would expect to see at like a VR shop, like where you'd go and rent time on a VR system and go racing there. That's kind of where I would see this type of thing.
Kind of a commercialized, Robust, hey, it's not going to break kind of rig.
Yeah.
with your selection of Sparko seats to choose from, depending on your size.
Tony, I know you're into DIY stuff. What about 3D printed stuff? Have you looked this over yet?
I have seen this. Yes. It's pretty cool. I do have a 3D printer, although I spend more time farting with the darn thing than I do actually printing stuff. But starting to see a lot of stuff being able to print. But this one he's got here, I think it's a like a light up sim lab thing. Best I can describe.
A logo.
Yeah, there you go. That's even better. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you can do a lot. They have a lot of different signage with backlighting in it. Yeah. As well as stuff like you could get Fanatec wheel mounts. I guess that's for putting it on either profile or a wall. They got some stuff for stream decks.
So they have a mount cover. I think Mike calls that his steering wheel, isn't it?
They got a little phone mount where you put it on the steering wheel. It even has the Fanatec logo on it. They have all kinds of neat stuff. I just grabbed 3 pictures off his website. It's Etsy.com. And he's got all kinds of 3D printed stuff. Even the dust cover to go over the direct drive base when the wheel's off with a big F on it. I like that.
So are you just paying for his designs then, Tony? Is that what he would be
No, it
offering?
says free shipping. I think he's
so it is actual
printing these
pieces
and selling them to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is like an Etsy thing there. So yeah, he's doing it up, and it's actually pretty darn reasonable. These things, they take quite a bit of time to make. Like even the small stuff can take quite a bit, you know. And
I really like the LED light boxes. $45. I mean, that seems reasonable. But you can get one that says like SimLab or Fanatec or D-Box. And, you know, that'd look pretty cool in the office.
I'm thinking of getting one of these lights done up with my cactus stuff, my frozen cactus for my rig for the illuminated ones.
How about an iRacers Lounge one?
Maybe that would be a thing to, yeah, that would be something to try.
I'm sure if you gave him artwork, you know, he could print it. You know, that's where all this other stuff came from, you know.
I'll have to get the idea from my sponsor to get the sim wraps one up.
Mike, I'm going to toss this one to you because I know you tend to like worship almost anything Max Pappas, right?
Well, I just love the colors. I mean, I guess I'm kind of OCD like that, but yeah, we have Max Pappas Industries' new Sim Max chassis is the company's first rig offered in their growing simulation product lineup. The MPI Sim Max chassis comes complete with everything you need to assemble and drive. Simply use the supplied pieces, nuts, and bolts and attach your desired technology, which is designed to work with Logitech, Thrustmaster, and Fanatec hardware. It comes in 3 configurable options with a price range from $800 to $1,000.
If I was going to buy an MPI rig, I don't think I would buy any other seat besides that one that they haven't really released yet, but we've been looking at, right?
Yeah, that's still not available. I looked.
I really would love to have that seat on one of those type.
On this rig, it would look good, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit easier to upgrade than the other rig we're talking about, but just how customizable is it again when it's at it? You know, we always tend to be. I guess it's going to be hard to convince me ever that the 80/20 is not the way to go. It looks nice, but just any of them I see, I just don't think I can put it just in the place I want it like I can with my 80/20s.
So the pedal tray looks kind of weak. There is a monitor, you know, center monitor support built in on the wheel stand, but nothing for triples. It's got a keyboard and a shifter holder, but nothing else.
You know, at one point, the keyboard and the shifter stuff used to always be options. It looks like a lot of these companies now are starting to add it in more as the full package, right?
Well, it's needed, you know. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this particular chassis. I'll skip this one.
Well, we have a button box company review called RS Button Boxes. They have all kinds of varieties and sizes, colors, and designs. But I always love to toss these to Tony because I don't see any of the handwritten labels.
Well, I guess they need to talk to me to get a proper set of labels done, eh?
What is the overhead on said labels? Because that's a really labor intensive, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I could probably shipped probably like $35 a page.
Now, what is it if you cut it out for them?
Oh, now we're talking. Nobody can afford that.
So it's rsbuttonboxes.com, and they have a unique look to them. He has lots of different ones, but they all have a 3D printed front that has a raised logo that says RS Button Boxes.
Now, at a glance, you look at these, and it's a lot of buttons, but you're missing a lot of. There's not that many switches and knobs in most of their options. So functionally, I don't know if this would be the best route. Though the Chevy-looking button box is pretty clever.
It's basically a button box, like David's saying. The rotary options are very, very, very minimal, and I would say I like that he has his logo on it, but the logo takes up a lot of real estate for, say, an extra 5 buttons or a couple toggles or something, right?
Yeah, because it's a bezeled logo.
Do we have prices on any of these?
Well, that's what I was going to say. How do you buy these, or how much are they? I don't know.
Yeah, they got Twitter and Facebook and a contact link at the bottom where you just send in an email in a form. So I guess you have to get quotes.
I would expect these to be inexpensive based on what I see, but
I would certainly hope so, especially for the ones without rotary dials, because, like I said, the printing takes a while. These boxes are probably anywhere between, depending on the size, 15 to 30 hours print time. But the guts inside, they're dirt cheap to make without the rotaries.
I just think that the front looks kind of cheesy with the 3D printed, front. You could tell it's very 3D printed with the raised lettering. I don't know.
If he would have, because you can smooth out, it's very easy to tell it's a 3D print. And I find a lot of the finishes on the 3D print, rather ugly. There's ways to finish it. You can even kind of, cheese out like I did. It looks good, but, I just did the carbon fiber wrap on it. But, I don't know. If you pay like $50 for these, $50-$60, you're probably doing all right.
This next one would be neat if we had Kyle around because he's kind of turning into one of our video experts. Yvonne Congard posted this one in the forums. He's created an open source command line app that's allowing you to capture multiple camera angles on a replay. So you can record the whole replay or configure specific ranges. It's basically, it will control OBS and it creates a single clip by clip camera angle. And so instead of, I guess you can make the video editing and synchronization easy by writing scripts. You can also control the camera live as it plays and avoid editing.
So what I'm guessing he's doing here with OBS would be it stops and starts as you switch cameras, so it's a different clip instead of where you now have to rewind the video, go back, start it again, take it, and then try and mesh the video together. I'm thinking he's got an algorithm or something he's done within OBS that can start and stop OBS with each camera change. it's just an easier way to make different clips.
Interesting. Now,
If I'm sure Kyle will get to listen in on this episode since he wasn't able to make it in tonight. If he gets to try it out, we'll try to follow up on this.
yeah, and a follow up on the one previous week, we had talked about some additional cameras that somebody had put together, broadcast quality cameras that you can download and install in a folder, in the camera folder on your computer. And then you can hit Control F12 and hit load track, load car, and load those cameras. Now, I did try that and installed those on my computer, and they are fascinating. It gives you an additional 4 or 5 cameras. One was the spotter, not the spotter stand, but the flag stand with a neat camera. They also had a stationary
Bernie
turn
cam.
1 and 2, turn 3 and 4. That was pretty cool. And the gopher cam, or what was the Fox, the digger cam, or
Yeah, digger.
They had the digger cam. And I used it the other day. That was pretty cool. We're going to do one more. This is a CSL DD review. And this was a neat video.
Wow, the feedback is crazy.
Because the guy's excited about it, and it was fun to watch him unboxing it and setting it up and trying different things, and genuine enthusiasm. I don't know if you see these in review videos a lot. You normally, there's not a lot of enthusiasm, but this guy made it fun to watch, and I ended up watching the whole thing, actually. He loves it, by the way, was the summary, and I don't think we've seen a bad review yet.
Yeah, I do know we have 2 teammates that have ordered this. No, is it 2 teammates or just 1?
Well, Tom ordered it for sure, and Tyler Williamson also ordered it.
That's right.
Too.
So we'll have a first-hand review on those pretty soon. Looking forward to that.
No, we can do one more here, David. This one is a follow-up to last week.
All right, so there's an action speaks louder than words. The F-GT Elite cockpit pedals plates are as strong as it gets. They said that they've ensured that the pedal plate is built to handle all of the high-end pedals on the market. What are we following up to? I don't remember talking about this.
This is that cockpit that I loved.
That
is iRacing branded, and you get the free 1 year.
yeah, we were worried about the pedal plate. We were talking about it. Looks like
I think
had
they
a-
heard us. They must have heard our show because they put out this video specifically to show that the pedal plate has no flex.
And the video is very, very,
very convincing.
they're bouncing on it, man. They're trying to turn it into a trampoline, and it ain't budging. That's good.
He's jumping up and down on it, literally. And you're right; it doesn't even flinch. And so I'm glad if they're listening to our show. That's pretty cool.
I love how they do this video at the beginning. It says, "How strong is this pedal plate?" And at the end of the video, strong.
Now, if they're listening to our videos, I'm still going to say I don't believe them until I have it at my house to test it. Is that going to work?
Are you going to try to get into the same business as SRG? How many of those pieces of equipment does he actually have to buy, right? Now, he probably doesn't get to keep most of them, but he gets to try out everything probably. But it's almost a job, so at that point, is it that fun to get to try everything? I don't know.
A lot of those, from some of the companies I've tried to inquire about some of this stuff, you pay for the shipping of it and then at some point ship it back, and that's basically it for it, and test it for a while, or buy it at a lower cost after reviewing it or checking it, or depending on how your review does and stuff like that online.
Well, if all you're paying for is the shipping, well, I mean, even for the rigs, he's bringing in money from YouTube. I'm pretty sure he's a partner, so that's probably a reasonable part of the operating cost.
So I left that cockpit last week saying that was the only thing I didn't like about it. And now this video has convinced me that I was wrong about that. It doesn't flex. It looks strong as can be.
So you're the one who really needs to get him to send you a trial rig, right?
I think all the iRacers Lounge guys need we need to thoroughly test
We
it
need a new sponsor.
as a team.
Yeah. I'm good with the P1X.
David, you'll take yours, and you can always next level. Do not listen to David.
I'm pretty sure, Mike, you're going to be buying this rig. I don't think you're gonna find another one that you're gonna like more than this one.
I kind of like it too. Like, I've been thinking about it too, Mike. It's.
I always thought I'd get a Sim1 PX, SimLab P1X, because that's kind of the gold standard. But this might be the new gold standard.
Remember, the standards always move.
Standards move, and this one looks badass. I mean, if you're gonna race, you might as well look badass.
Right. At that angle, to the uprights, and it makes it look badass.
Yep. And you can jump on the pedal plate.
I
Make
know,
a
that's
TikTok.
even better.
Oh, I was just thinking the same thing. Our resident TikToker.
All right.
Speaking of
video
badass
ideas.
Yeah, well, speaking of badass, let's start talking results, and a couple of badass results at Darlington. Mike, you had a P2, yeah?
P2, Friday night, backing up my win in the Southern 500 on Wednesday night. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to back it up. I wanted to win twice, 2 in a row, but that was too good to be true. But I'll take second. I actually led some laps. I had nothing for the winner. On the longer run, he would gap me for sure. He would have a 10-second lead, and I would short pit and wipe it out. But eventually, he would get by me and drive on. But it was a great run, and it certainly backed up my win and shows it's no fluke. But it certainly was interesting that both Wednesday and Friday night that I was running second at the end of the race to a faster car. Wednesday, I won it because that faster car ended up wrecking, on the last lap, and that's how it played out. But in this case, the leader didn't wreck, and I finished second. Greg, you got P-wrecked from the lead with 100 to go.
The biggest problem here is we got a caution in the middle of green flag stops, so it kind of changed the strategy up, and there was only a couple cars on the lead lap, so the guys that were fast, they were still trying to, race us up in the lead to get their laps back, and one of the guys was racing us hard for a while there, and it came down to a guy racing with him and racing around me, and it was unavoidable what was going on with the lap car, and it's all that happened. I guess it's racing, but it's kind of frustrating when you're that far into a race of how it went down.
Crazy. And then David, P12, top split.
Yeah, this one should have been a top 10. I guess you're doing pretty well when you start getting disappointed with not making a top 10 at the top split. But I dinged it in the wall a couple times, hurt some of the long run speed, and then I missed the pits on one of the green flag stops. In the top splits at these hard tracks have been running super clean. So there's just no chance to get that back. But even with all those mistakes, I still brought it home P12. So I guess I'll take it.
Tell us how hard it is to get on the pit road on a green flag stop at Darlington. You missed it.
Yeah, and in this particular one, I made sure I got down, and I actually got down so low that the wall caused me to have to turn too far to the right that I couldn't get turned back to the left when I passed the apex of the wall. So, yeah, I learned my lesson there and didn't make that one anymore.
Yeah, I put a video up in the chat of my Wednesday night green flag stop where I almost missed pit road. I had to come to almost a complete stop to get the car to turn left to get in there. Tony Rochette, P7, had speed, stayed in the top 10 throughout the first green flag stop. When caution came out, just as I was leaving my box, putting me a lap down, Moss, the lucky dog, for the next caution, decided to take a wave around, which did not work in my favor as I somehow ended 3 laps down for what was probably the longest green flag run I ever had in an NIS.
It's interesting how you get to the track that's one of the toughest to tame tracks, right? And it's because everybody's basically so worried about just not screwing up their own race, they don't race over their heads around other people, and suddenly you don't have a caution fest. And then you go someplace like, I don't know, Michigan, and there's a caution every 10 laps.
All right, Tony Rochette, Sunday Open, P3. Definitely had a great car again, but lap cars that want to race you and also not understanding what a wave around is kept me behind them. Greg, you had back problems.
Yeah, I've been fighting them on and off since that day, but I was, I don't know, probably 100, 150 laps into that race in the morning, and my back started taking a turn for the worst on me where it was kind of spasming, and on my throttle pedal side it just wasn't feeling good, and I kind of just gave up, and I wasn't gonna push it and fight it out because I probably would have had even a worse Saturday or Sunday all day if I would have done that. It's been uncomfortable since. I didn't race last night because of it as well, but hopefully I can get in there Friday night and do it. I'm wondering if it's just the amount of stuff that I was trying to do last weekend with running the long races and even trying the 24-hour race and everything that we tried. It just might have been too much.
All right.
And then, I got wrecked out on this one. I was running really well, and I had one of those lap cars that this guy's, we don't name names, but this guy, he don't think right. And we're coming in. He had already raced us when he was on the lead lap and held several of us up when we clearly run him down. And now he's like multiple laps down, and there's 2 cars that are nose to tail run it coming by him, and he decides to let one go, and it then goes into the corner with me side by side in turn 1, causing me to not be able to pull down for the apex. Up I go and murder the car at that point. What do you do most of the time at Darlington when you're letting the guys go? You pay attention and you just go ahead and make sure that they all get to the corner first, right? You don't try to go side by side, even if you're letting them by.
Like Greg experienced Monday. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk Richmond next. Wednesday Open, David, P13.
Yeah, another just insanely long race. I used to really struggle at Richmond, but did pretty well here. Started 22nd. I never qualify well, but had good long run speed, and we ran green. We had an early caution, but still ran the green flag stops. I pitted around lap 110 out of 200. And those both times in the last 20 to 30 laps, anybody that was close to me, I was faster than it. At that point, pulled a 13 out in a real tough top split. I was like car 26 or something like that. So, decent result, for that tough split.
And the lack of cautions was kind of surprising because in the other splits, we definitely had cautions. I think we had 12.
Yeah, when I finished, you had 50 laps left.
Right.
I was glad David went through that race faster. It was a lot easier to watch that way. It wasn't as long.
Well, that was another fun part, actually, is that Greg stuck around. Since he didn't race, he went ahead and planned on sticking around for the whole stream, and it was nice to have company for the entire stream instead of somebody drop in for 5 minutes in my super busy channel that I have.
Well, and I can learn, even if I'm not driving the car, I can see how it's performing. I mean, David and I both have very different driving styles, but we run pretty close to the same setups. They just run differently for us. But other than that, I could see what was needed in that race, and he was kind of giving me feedback while I was asking him questions, and maybe it's something we can learn for Friday night.
Yeah, I don't. The set was just a little snug, but if you're only 5% tighter on the front after at a short track after 100 laps, I'll call that balanced.
And the set was loose early. I figured that out. I ended up P17. I was loose on the first caution, and I was the first caution. I got loose, and I actually hit a guy on the inside and took him out, and I felt pretty bad about it. But I was able to continue, and I moved forward and ran top 10 pretty much as high as fifth. About 35 to go, though, a guy on the inside came up into me when I was on the outside in the corner, and 5 minutes damage. I mean, you're at their mercy if you're on the outside and there's somebody on the inside of you. If they're going to come up into you, you can't do anything about it, and you're going to get damaged. And so today when I ran, I was trying to stay on the bottom just so I wouldn't have that problem. Kyle, he ran Pitney Graph. He got a P4. Started P9 and hung out in the top for most of the race. About halfway through, I slid through turns 3 and 4 on a restart and brought out the caution. Fell back to P19 and worked my way up to a P4 finish. Teammate Stephen Llewellyn getting a P3 in the same split. All right, and then Tony Rochette and I ran earlier today, open. Tony, P13, caught in a late wreck. He said, blah. I got P4. Man, I'll take a top 10. I actually ran back half of the top 10, basically. At one point, I spun off, but saved it and worked my way back up. I was on the outside once, and they checked up a little bit, and the guy behind me hit me in the rear. It knocked me down into the inside car, which then turned him off my nose. Guess what? It's the same guy that I wrecked on Wednesday night that I wrecked today. And he wasn't happy. Later, he came out back on the track many laps down, went slowly until I came around. And as soon as I got close to him, he picked up speed and basically raced me really hard side by side. In the corners, he would get on the inside of me and basically kind of push me up into in the corners, trying to rattle my cage, trying to wreck me, both. I don't know. Eventually, I kind of let off, gave up some track position to get away from him, trying to be smart and not, get involved in some kind of altercation and get a top 5. And I did. And I was able to keep away from him enough to not get wrecked and got a P4.
And that moves us on to the league racing, right? Not really much on official, with it being week 13.
Fast track.
Yeah, I'll go first. P8. I was wrecked early and heavily damaged. I was going right next to a car, had a good run on him, and he was trying to let me by, and his car just wiggled, and I had no chance to avoid him. He was immediately apologetic, so at that point you can only be mad at the situation. But I ran the whole rest of the race really with a really beat up car and still managed to bring it home a P8, but I just didn't have the power to run with the fast guys anymore.
All right, and Greg, you got wrecked out side by side going into one.
Yeah, the my 87 Simraps Jeff Gordon Nicorette throwback car.
Oh, getting all corporate now.
Was well, I want to thank Bobby for the quick turnaround in the paint job there too. I threw the idea of running a throwback after I saw some of the guys showing throwbacks in the Fast Track Discord. So it's not the throwback race that we were this weekend, but we ran some throwbacks for it. So I came up with that idea, and he put it together pretty quickly. I was running decent in the race. I'm kind of running for the championship here now in the last 10 races there as well, and I was just minding my P's and Q's. I wasn't having a great... I was in the top 6, I think, when it happened, and I was on old tires, and faster tires were coming by, and I just, I got stuck together with one guy that entered in the corner a little bit slower than I thought he would, and it just didn't come out great for us. I ended up on my roof. I think he ended up stuck in the fence, and it just wasn't good. I wasn't too happy about it, but I don't know much more what I could have done differently, and that's what always frustrates me.
It's just that track you can't go very well one and two sideways. If you enter one and don't get to pull down and hit the first of the double apexes, and you don't brake stupid early, you're going to slide into the wall. It gets pretty nasty. I should mention that too, that I actually ran a Mark Martin GoDaddy throwback scheme that Bobby threw together pretty quick as well.
All right, and then Tony Rochette, he wrecked out all by himself, spinning off two. First time he's done that this year, I think. So he was pretty down on himself about that. I ended up blowing up. I was P7 before that caution. Now, I was coming from the back. I worked my way up. I was making hay. But when the caution came out, I was caught a lap down. I took the wave around. It put me back in the garbage, and then someone about 3 cars ahead decided to let off the gas on the straightaway, like at the 3/4 mark of the straightaway. Like when you're in the gas the most, this guy just gets out of the gas. And just like right after you would go to 4th gear on a restart. And he just goes out of the gas for like maybe a second and a half. And they all stack up in front of me. And I got real heavy front end damage from it. And it blew up right after that. So, yep, I got wrecked.
So who decided we were basically the Hendrick of the league this night? Because, man, we all had trouble. Stephen Llewellyn was the only one who snuck it out, and he didn't put his results in here, but I know what he got because I was still in there. He pulled home a P3.
P3. Now, he was fading early. I remember going by him. All of us went by him in the first 20 laps. He went straight to the back, but I think he said he hit the wall a couple times, and he fell back and basically regrouped.
Well, he went back on purpose. He just decided to get out of the muck and get out of being under pressure. So he intentionally gave up the track position, and then kept it clean for the rest of the race. And a lot of people had trouble, including the rest of us. And he brings home the P3. That may be his best finish in the league.
Yeah, nice run. Final thoughts, David Hall.
Not a whole lot, I don't guess. Come watch my stream, twitch.tv/mixmage. And yeah, it's still just 1X.
All right, and Greg Hector's final thoughts.
And always with the jabs. I can't even say my stream. I haven't put my stream up in a while. But one thing that David and I did try last week is we multi-streamed as a test both of us doing a practice session with the LMP car. Turned out pretty good. I liked it, at least. We'll see how much we use it. It's something that David and I think will throw up on the iRacers Lounge page every once in a while here. Maybe if we're running road races or something together. I don't know if Mike wants to get involved. We can put up as many as we want and see all our perspectives while we're racing. If we're all racing at one time, it'd be interesting to see, like, say on a Friday night, if we all had them going, all from different splits, and you could just tune in.
Yeah. Can I jump in here a little bit? Discord streaming is pretty neat, except just like you set up the stream for the podcast, every time somebody joins, it moves everything around, and the only way to connect those cameras in OBS is to create multiple copies of the same app and do all this stupid editing, and it's kind of dumb. So if there's anybody who's good with Discord, there's a problem with the Discord app in that when you're streaming your own app, it stops showing your feed in Discord when it's not under focus. If anybody knows how to fix that, let us know. Because that way it's at least we can just run the windows in default position, maybe leave the cameras off. It would look pretty cool. But also, if somebody wants to get out there and develop something like this that's a little bit more automated, you might talk to us too. We'll come up with some kind of deal.
Also, if there's any of our listeners too, have any different types of broadcasting programs that might run where I can select cameras from something instead of, like, from a piece of software, instead of selecting it as making my own frame. Like, it's a little hard to explain, but OBS and Discord don't really work well together for creating a lot of different camera angles. I do a lot of weird things on here just to create what we have for our podcast in general.
Okay. My final thoughts to my wheel. Wednesday in the Southern 500, I had no problems with the wheel at all. But Friday night, even though I had a good run in P2, it actually failed twice on me, where the force feedback will stop in the middle of the corner, and I'll jerk, because of the loss of the feedback. And so I said, enough's enough. I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And I bought a Fanatec Podium hub. It arrives tomorrow. And I'm going to attempt to take some button clusters off of this piece of crap hub and stick it on that Podium hub, and hopefully it'll work. I don't know if the paddles are compatible. We'll see. But I'm going to play with that tomorrow and get that installed and up and running. I'm excited about that. And maybe we'll take a baseball bat to the remaining part of this hub when I'm done, and we'll put it up on the social media. The other final thought is thanks to Kyle for the video on my Southern 500 win. You guys might have seen that on social media recently today. It was pretty cool. And one last thing is, I don't like having enemies on the track, and I seem to have made one this week. Not on purpose. I'm not out there trying to wreck anybody by any means, but, shit happens, and I'm sorry about that, but I certainly don't want enemies. But hey, it happens. When you race as much as we do, it's going to happen. You're going to rub the guy the wrong way twice. I wrecked this guy 2 times in a row. He thinks I'm after him probably, but I'm not. But that's how it goes, and that's part of racing, and I guess I'll deal with it. And with that, we'll see you on the track. Later.